Thank you, everybody, for joining me. This is Marina.
Hi.
Marina, tell us a little bit about what you do.
I do systems for small businesses, solopreneurs, and little larger companies. What it means, I create an infrastructure for the business to operate well. So examples would be a good, accessible database to keep all your files organized and easily available. A system that makes sure your money flows and you're in control. Like you can look at any point how much money you have, how much money you expend, and you can plan, like you can predict what happens 3 to 6 months ahead. A system that makes sure your email is not a black pit of despair. You have, an inbox that is actually a to-do list, or a list of action items.
Yeah.
In general, I do processes. I help you set a pricing model. I help you delegate to your team if you have one, and plan and manage your project, stuff like that. So I create these.
I was really impressed by who you've worked for.
Thanks.
In the past. Give us a little bit of your history.
How far back do you want to go?
Well, weren't you in the oil and gas industry?
No, I was in automotive. So I ran large-scale projects in automotive industry, and by large scale, I mean 3 continents and millions of dollars. I worked for a big manufacturing company, and in between, before and after, I did mostly software and hardware. Again, projects in various sizes. Including an IT department of a large nonprofit. So that's kind of my corporate background. And
so why did you leave the corporate?
Why people leave corporate?
Really? Same old reasons?
I don't know. Frankly, for me, it was burnout, as happens for many people. But I think burnout really happens when you lose a sense of purpose, when you no longer feel that your hard work is making a difference, never mind appreciated. So it was that, and was also I really, really can't handle office politics. I'm a sorry politician. It's just not my thing.
That's something I haven't dealt with in a few years. Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I now work with business owners who can appreciate the infrastructure and actually know how important it is to make sure a business has solid foundation. Not just, we have enough cash, but this is how we run. This is the way we do things, and it works for me and my business. And also, I don't know, personally, it's easier for me to connect with a person or a small team and see how they grow and what happens in their very own personal lives and their businesses. Instead of, oh, great, I got this report from an organization. We can now charge 3 cents more per sensor. It's great. We have whatever, increased our profits 3.92%. It's just not as fulfilling on a very basic human level.
Totally. So let's get into how you can help us when we're getting overwhelmed with our small business, kind of on the opposite of the corporate scale. It's not burnout from not being appreciated or even having a purpose. Lots of us have this huge passion and purpose to what we're doing, and we're trying to control it all, but we know we need help, but we're not at the point where we can afford it. Do you have recommendations for how to help us organize ourselves until we can afford help, or how to afford help?
Absolutely. So there are 2 parts to your question. It's an awesome question, by the way, and we deal with it, all of us, on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, before you hire people out, you need to make sure everything that can be automated in your business is automated, because automating costs far less than hiring an assistant. What to automate, that's a wholly different question. It varies from business to business, but it's based first and foremost on your own personal skill set. Namely, if you really can't handle money and invoicing and you forget to do that, this is where you start. If you're really great with money.
I have to tell you, I do that all the time. I enjoy working with people. And then at the end of the day, I'll have worked like 6 or 7 billable hours and not billed them because I don't know who I was working for. Oh, yes.
Well, you're very much not alone. You're in a big company. And there are wonderful tools that cost a few bucks a month that would do this for you. And some of them are free. Set a reminder on your phone, on your calendar, every Friday, go over all your billables, send out the invoices. And there's automation to send the invoices. You can use PayPal, you can use Harvest, you can use FreshBooks, whatever. But there is something that you should automate. If, for example, your invoicing is fine and you're like pretty, you're comfortable with it, but you're drowning in communications and, you don't have a process to take your prospect client to the point where they actually sign a contract, this is what you should look at automating first. What happens when somebody sends you a question? What happens when somebody asks for an assessment? What happens then? Like, how do you turn it into a contract?
Is there a way to automate? Like, a lot of us are available everywhere.
Yes.
And we have we get DMs on Twitter and we get private messages on Facebook and we get people Skyping us and we get text messages, we get emails. Is there a way to streamline it all? Because we can't be checking all these places and
the only way I usually recommend is going to sound very basic. There are all kinds of dashboards and softwares that would have all your emails and Twitters and Facebook stuff together, and you don't want to use them because when you look at this dashboard, it's just overwhelming. What I would suggest doing, and it's A, much harder to advise than to actually implement, B, the only effective way I'm familiar with, you set up times with yourself, say, couple times a day, morning and evening or morning and afternoon, which is when you check all your communication channels. I have a Facebook group half hour every morning where I comment, I react, and I do something. I have 2 times a day when I check my email. Most of us don't have a business where anything requires a completely immediate response. Yeah. I would imagine that very few of your viewers and listeners are surgeons and firefighters and such like.
We think we are.
Yes, we do, but it's the wrong mindset. A business coach.
Customer service. Customer service.
Yeah, but you know what? Unless it's some burning, amazing, screaming opportunity, nobody would die if you respond them within a couple hours, right?
Yeah.
You won't.
And twice a day allows you, at the most, it'd be 4 or 5 hours.
Absolutely. So you put your plane and, sorry, I misspoke. So people tend to call it an airplane mode. You know how if your phone is on airplane mode, you don't get any communication?
Right.
Sorry. So turn off your Facebook, which is the tug is really, really strong. Turn off your Twitter, do your work. If you do work with people, even better, because then you're focused on the person next to you. And allocate the times when you communicate to certain slots. And then you communicate, you review, you have time to gather yourself for a good answer. Sometimes, email say, you don't necessarily need to read everything that is being sent your way. And it's especially true if your email is not already sent so you don't get, distracting stuff. You don't really need to read everything you signed up for.
Oh, yes.
Right? So
that's unroll.me.
Yes, please. Yeah. But even if there are a few things that get sent your way and you look at them all at once, you can prioritize. You can make it into tasks. Same is true for Twitter. If you check your Twitter every time, there is a notification, it's distracting. It's very hard to create. Or if you look once a day, or tweets actually more like 3 times a day, if you look at your tweets and your notifications 3 times a day, you have them all at once, and you decide, this one I need to react, this one I don't. Oh, this person liked my tweet, that's nice, but I didn't really need to get my work interrupted because somebody liked my tweet.
Yeah, that's true.
So again,
I found that I also will, if I get people asking me to do stuff in all these channels, I have a process, but it kind of has to come through email to hit the first step in my process. So if they don't come through email, things will slip through the cracks. So I tend to ask people to send it to me on email. I put it back on them because I can't, I just don't have those autoresponders, and I don't have the information at my fingertips, and I don't have, my email program, I have a little follow-up system. So if I send them an email, I know to follow up, but I don't know how to follow up DMs on Twitter or Facebook, or, that's not my system.
That's one thing. And you could find a system and automate, but frankly, I like your approach better. I have my favorite channel. This is how I communicate about, requests, so to speak. Twitter is for one thing, Facebook is for another, email is for a different kind of communication altogether. It, sort of derived from the media you're using, from the channel. And it's my job to educate my audience which way is best to communicate with me. Now, obviously,
that's what I thought was kind of interesting. I read a book about how Starbucks trains its customers. It's really kind of funny. Instead of us going to Starbucks for a drink, they've trained us how to order. We all go in there and order a grande or a venti. Who the hell knows what a grande or a venti is? But we do it.
We do, but I still sin with saying just small tea. And they nod.
You're stubborn.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So I just said, you need to train your audience. And then I thought, wait, but everybody says that you need to be where your audience is. And it's true. There needs to be a compatibility between what you offer and the way you communicate to the way other people communicate. Say, you believe in phone coaching. So most of your content that you put out there is going to be audio. Maybe you'll have a podcast, maybe you'll have, a free course with, little audios, whatever.
Yeah.
So there needs to be compatibility. So having said that, how would I put it?
Do you still want to train them? Because I used to, and I think a lot of my audience has this, and it's kind of a downfall or something to overcome, a challenge. That's what the word is. It's a challenge for us who were raised sort of not quite like the boomers and I guess a few of us in Generation X. It's a need to be professional. And so the authenticity is a more difficult thing because we wonder if we're being verbal vomit, I've heard it described as, or that somehow being authentic would be unprofessional. And we try to, when I first started out, it was just me, but I always referred to the business as we, because we want to be big, because big is professional and reliable. And so it's actually interesting. And that was part of how I would try, this is my system. You come into my system if you want to work with me. It was kind of very demanding and sort of prideful. And now I find that it's the opposite that really meets people where they're at. Well, it always has, but now it's more of a necessity. You have to be authentic and be where people are. You have to have that compatibility you were talking about.
I agree, because when I said, "Oh, you have to train," it sounded so arrogant.
I think there's some truth to it.
And this is not what I meant. So I really appreciate that you bring it up. I think how would I put it? First of all, when you find your audience, chances are that you communicate on the same wavelength. You communicate the same way you prefer. You don't think the same way necessarily, because if you thought the same way as your audience, they would be your competition.
Okay.
Rather than your customers or potential customers. But you do communicate in the same way. If you provide services that are very visual, right, your audience would be on Instagram and on Pinterest and so on. And there will be messages there, but for the bigger things, so to speak, right? If it's your job, how would I put it? If your work entails bigger things, bigger services, and your way of dealing with these bigger things is via email, I don't see that it's a bad thing to ask your audience to send you an email. So this is the best way to reach me out. I can serve you best if you do this. I will communicate with you on our preferred channel, but in a way that this channel fits best. If you want a bigger service, you want something more substantial, this is the best way to contact me.
And I also think there's one other thing that just made me think of. We like to streamline things sometimes. I don't know if it's pride or to make it easier on ourselves. And then this year I've really tried to be focusing on customer service. And so taking away any of those barriers or anything that I think I need just for me. But it's turned out to be interesting. If people need me or like if we're not working on a project, which is usually via email or telephone or Skype, then I need them to submit a ticket because then anybody on my team can help them. But I don't, and they send me emails because that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. And I don't want to say, I don't want to talk to you, because I do want to talk to them, but I'm trying to work on the big projects and not check my email. So if they do need help or their site is down or something that's important, the tickets are checked all the time, like every half an hour by somebody on my team, but not me. Right. So it's much easier to say, I don't answer my email, you have to send a ticket. Like, that's not good, but it's easier to say, I'm sorry, I totally missed your email. If you want somebody to get on this right away, please submit a ticket to the support desk because we can help you faster. Like, it's for your benefit.
I would even reframe it. I would say, I want to serve you best. My way of giving you the best service I can is to check my emails twice a day, because this way I can focus on my core stuff and helping you. However, I want to give you I want to give you the fastest response. The best way to get a fast response to your issue is by submitting a ticket.
Exactly. That's what I've tried to do is, and it's the truth. It's not like I'm trying to reframe it. I actually took away all the reframes and just started from customer service first. And then these things build naturally now, because it really is, the process really is helpful to them and me, but it's really to get the fastest service to them. So processes have to work for, not just us. Like, we're used to developing processes. I'm a process lover. I love the neat little from A to B to C, and let's just have everybody follow the line. But I think we have to temper that with customer service, don't you?
I absolutely think that you're right, but I also think that customer service is a process in and of itself. And customer service benefits from having very clear framework. It doesn't mean that you're inauthentic. It doesn't mean that you're rigid. Right. That was the word I was looking for. Rigid. Yeah. Right. Quite the opposite. But it does mean that when a customer request comes your way, you know exactly how to handle it most efficiently. and most, with best results. There has to be a process, otherwise you'll drown in your customer support stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
okay. Let's get back. I have more questions. Okay, what? I missed what you said.
I'm just saying that having a process for customer service serves them first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Great topic I love talking about the systems thing. Okay, but there was, so adding systems and automating stuff will help us kind of make life easier until we get to the point that we can hire. So when do you suggest a hire? Like, is there a certain financial point? When do we know it's time to hire some help?
It's a great question. I think it's deeply, deeply personal and it varies a lot. I would start with a skill set. If you feel that your skill set really prevents you from growing, this is probably a time to at least consider hiring somebody else. I'll give you an example. If you feel that you're providing an amazing service and your clients are gushing about you, and you know you can grow, and you know you can provide this fantastic service to people, but in order to grow, you have to put words on a page. And let's say you're like me and you dread putting words on the page to the point that it really, really holds you back. You might consider hiring it out, even if you don't have the funds, because you can try small, you can go into debt. I'm not advising anybody go into debt, but at least you can make a decision based on your skill set, right? So a point of hiring someone is when you feel that something that you're doing is really holding you back from growing further. You see the potential for growth.
Marina,
Yeah.
We might need to repeat that question. Your sound keeps going loud and then soft. And then
yours as well. It's weird. Is something in your internet maybe?
Oh, do I too?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's just my internet. Because then
I noticed it earlier.
Oh, I guess we'll just keep going.
Okay, repeat the question, then you can cut it out.
The question was, how do we know when we need to hire? Like, how do we've got the automation in place and we've kind of taken off all the tasks that we can, and we're starting to feel overwhelmed again. How do we know if we have the finances to hire? Or how do we know when it's time to add somebody to our team?
It's an amazing question. And the answer is it depends, because it's a very nuanced one. What I usually recommend is make sure your finances are under your control. That doesn't mean that you have a ton of money. It just means you know very well where the money comes from and where the money goes. So you can make an informed decision. That's one component. Another component is when you feel that your skill set is holding you back from growing. And the example I usually give, let's say you give an incredible service to your existing clients, and you know that you can grow, that you can serve more people. But in order to serve more people, you need to write some ad materials. And if you're like me, writing, at least used to be, gives you hives and puts you in a creative, productive coma. I've been known to spend 2 to 3 weeks doing exactly nothing because I had to write, a conference talk.
Right.
Yeah, I just remember it's really painful.
I don't do conferences. Ugh.
I love conferences. I love public speaking, but that's beside the point. So let's say you really struggle with marketing copy, and you know you can't grow online without having somebody to copy. Hire it out, because do the math. See how much money you can afford without completely losing it, and see how much money you think it could bring you back. So for example, how many more clients you expect to see, more or less, if you hire somebody out. Do the math, make a decision.
Yeah.
Again, the point here is to hire out based on skill set and always have your finger on the pulse, seeing how, like, to control your money well, to see where it goes and where it comes from.
Mm-hmm. And I did that at the beginning of 2016 too. And I knew I had to grow, and I don't think I didn't do enough calculations, but I decided I would put this chunk of money into it. So I decided before I could afford it that I would spend X amount of dollars, and that was going to be my trial period. And when that money was up, it was up. Like, then I'd have to go back and rethink, go back to drawing board. I didn't know what I was going to do, but this was the amount of money. So I just, like most of us, just used my credit card, and hired people before I could afford it. But you need to have the people in place in order to get to do the work.
So how did it work out for you?
Good now, yeah. Yeah, it took longer than I thought. I was going to give myself 3 months. That was going to make it all the difference, and it took about 9.
Wow.
Yeah, so it took me a while, but it's trial and error, right? I didn't hire a strategist or.
Can I just take a moment to admire your bravery?
It wasn't, I don't know if it was bravery more than I just bought a house and I'm on my own and I have 3 kids, and it was like, this has to be sustainable. This has to be my income. And if it's not, I need to go to work. So I had to give myself, a parameter. Otherwise it's every day, oh my goodness, worried. And that's no way to live.
Wow. You're modeling the behavior that I was trying to explain in words. Like, your story is such an example of how it really works.
I don't know. I think there's a wiser way to do it, probably hiring help.
You might have done more math ahead of time.
Oh my God.
By the way, you know what? I do this for people. I actually create systems that help them determine how much money they have, how much money they can afford, how much money they expect to bring in. So
that is brilliant. So do you have, so if we come to you and you'll look at things on a granular level, like people bring you their confidential, these are my actual finances.
Yeah.
Help.
Yeah.
And you can do something with that, even if, because I'm thinking I brought you the finances at the beginning of the year, I'm not sure there's anything you could do. Like, it's like, we're maxed out. We need work.
I would, what I would tell you? I would walk you through a process. I won't even need your numbers. I would just tell you, this is how much, I would give you a spreadsheet, essentially, right? And say, here, plug in how much money you currently have. Here, plug in how much money you plan to spend on these new hires. Here, plan how much money plug in how much money you plan to make total for the next 3 to, let's say, 6 months. Plug in your numbers. You don't have to tell me what these numbers are. You can, to make sure you didn't do any typos.
But you know what? It's worth looking at what you even want to make, because I think I'm not alone in that. My numbers were as much as I can.
Oh God. Wow. Yes.
Right?
Because oh God, please cut out this. Oh God, this is so lame.
Well, you know what? Sometimes the good discussions are when we're real, because everybody can relate to this.
Yeah, but I hate the camera.
Go. Tell me what you were going to say.
When you said, how much do you want to make? Oh, as much as I can.
Yeah.
This is not how it works.
Yes, it is.
So Tony Robbins.
I'll take whatever I get.
But this is not a way to get to your goals.
Okay, explain.
So the little story. Tanya Robbins often asks people, so what do you want? And people go, I want to make more money. And he gives them a quarter. I don't remember if it's Tanya Robbins, somebody else. And he says, oh, here, you have more money. Are you happier now?
Yes. Yeah.
You need to have a ballpark. Let's say you pay the people you hired $500 a month. And let's say you have 3 people. Makes sense that after a while, you want the entire company to make more than what you're currently making plus $1,500 a month, right? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you'll be losing money. Great. Mm-hmm. How much more? Twice as much? Do you want to make...
Then let me play devil's advocate. Because obviously we've heard this goal setting stuff. Mm-hmm. But what if you're kind of scared to set those goals because it's like picking a number out of a hat? Well, I would like $10,000 a month. That's a goal, but it's like, why would I set that as my goal? I'm never going to achieve that this month.
See? There's a process to that as well. Shameless plug-in. I do this with people too.
Yeah.
But
is it picking the goal that's the problem, or is it that I'm not imagining myself on a beach somewhere on a yacht? That's the problem.
I would start with a goal that is not, I can start with both. So one approach is to say, I want to see myself somewhere on a yacht in 6 months. Right. Let's see how much money I need to make for that. Oh, this is going to cost $7,500. Okay, how do I make $7,500 in the next 6 months? Maybe I sell more product. Maybe I expect 5 more clients to come in.
But that sounds doable. What we're seeing online everywhere is how I had a 5-figure month.
That's great. You had a 5-figure month after you worked your butt for 2 years creating products, paying an advertisement. Yeah. What amazed me, one person said, I read her blog. She's really great, Jenny Shee. And she talked about a launch. And at some point, the launch was very professional, very polished with free videos and photo shoot and emails. And at some point she said, I spent, don't quote the exact number, about $40,000 on that launch. I'm like, holy cow, no wonder it looks so great. I have no idea how much money she made. She might have made $1,000, $1 million on that. Could be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But when somebody tells you, I just did a 5K launch, you don't know how much money of that is an actual profit, unless she says, I just hit a 5K profit. And even then, you don't know how much time she worked on that. Like, they don't necessarily disclose all their profits. You don't know where these people are in their businesses, because if right now I'm making 7 figures and I launch a product and I have all the infrastructure already there and I have a huge list because, hey, I'm a 7-figure business. Yeah, it's pretty easy for me to launch a, 5-digit launch. It's not a big deal. If, however, I'm just starting out and I'm scraping by and my budget is $315, which is all I have in my bank account.
Because we're bootstrapping, a lot of us.
Exactly. If I have a 5K launch, I'm a freaking superhero. Yeah. I must have done something amazingly right. Yeah. And I'm also at a huge risk of losing my mind over it. I kid you not. This whole thing of overnight success, it's not like it never happens.
Right.
But
ridiculous.
Very often people don't disclose the route that took them there.
Okay, we'll cut this out, but I want to ask you about it's not intention, it's something about setting your vision. Like, all you have to do is envision that this is going to happen to you and it'll just come true.
Manifesting?
Yes, that's the one. How do you like, I'm going to manifest myself $1 million. Like, how does that work?
Well, you know what? I used to really scorn at this whole, I'm a manifesting coach. Like, yeah, right. I'll put a vision board and things just pop up into existence.
Yes.
But the thing is, the more I work, the more I see that if I use all my senses to think about the outcome. Okay, let's say we're talking about that yacht.
Okay.
And I can imagine it really, really well. My brain starts working in a way that creates a plan. Like my head starts thinking in patterns and ideas and steps, and then I can organize my business or my project in such a way that is way more likely to actually bring that goal.
So
On
you
a
think
smaller scale, I'll give you an example.
you think it's a natural,
I think it's the power of our attention.
Oh, and you know what? I believe 100% the power of suggestion.
Suggestion too.
A book called Persuasion, a new one out by Robert somebody. And it's amazing. They're talking about sales figures, but if some of the stuff was amazing, like exactly the same experiment in two different buildings, exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
One building was called like the 7,000 on something avenue, and the other one was like 315 on something avenue. The people at the higher number expect to pay more for the service.
Interesting.
It's just, our brains are amazing.
It's true. I'll give you an example. Speaking of manifesting, I took a class about money mindset recently because
Interesting.
I admit I struggle a lot with my own money mindset.
Money mindset.
It's like, how do you treat money? Do you really believe you can make money? How do you control your money and so on?
Yeah.
Because, by the way, the best system in the world won't work for you if you don't operate from a certain set of assumptions. One of these assumptions, you can actually make money.
Okay.
Like real money. But you know what? So part of this class, the reason I'm asking, part of this class was talking about what you want to have. Like the things that you want to have, material things.
Really what you want to have. Like a housekeeper, like really? New furniture, like
stuff
down
like that, you know, a nicer coffee cup, a better laptop. And the creator of the course, my beloved Naomi Dunford.
Oh, I like her.
Yeah. So she says, okay, go around your house and look at all the things that you want to change. You know, look in your closet, see if you want whatever, a nicer blouse.
That you want to upgrade.
Look in your kitchen and see maybe you want a new set of pants, something like that. And then, and here's the key, create an environment where this purchase will make sense. What does it mean? It means that if I'm a rock climber, an aspiring rock climber.
Ooh, good for you.
And I needed at that point, or I didn't really need it, but I wanted a new pair of climbing shoes.
Okay.
Because the climbing shoes that I owned were a $20 pair falling apart. And my climbing became much better, so I needed better shoes. I'm like, okay, climbing shoes are usually over $100.
Right.
How would it make sense for me to make this purchase? What would I need to do? What would need to happen for me for the purchase of a new pair of shoes to make sense? Okay, I need to climb at least twice a week for this purchase to make sense.
You need to be a climber.
Right, I need to actually do the climbing. If I climb 2 to 3 times a week, it makes sense for me to get these shoes. Or say, I want a nicer set of pants. But if I don't really cook much, it's kind of a stupid waste of money. However, if I start cooking and I look into recipes and I make sure that we have family dinners at least 3 to 4 times a week, then buying new pants makes sense, right? So you create And you take this, you take the money from somewhere else. Like you stop spending somewhere else that you don't really, you don't really need. Like you don't really need a new blouse because you're not doing that many video appearances.
You're rock climbing.
I'm rock climbing. I'm definitely rock climbing. I'll take rock climbing over video appearances any day. So basically the point is, back to manifesting. It's not really manifesting. You plan your actions in a way that making these purchases or having something in your life, it doesn't necessarily have to cost money. It may be just, having an hour with your friends or your children. You create a life that these things that you want start to make sense. Ultimately, I bought a pair of new climbing shoes. They're awesome, by the way. But for that, I had to make sure I actually climb 2 to 3 times a week. I don't slack on my climbing. It also has this wonderful side effect that you actually do what you like, because suddenly it becomes important. Suddenly it becomes, it's not even important, it was always important, but suddenly you have your focus on these things.
I'm thinking I like to buy home decorating things because I think that's when I'm going to decorate my house. But if I decorated my house first with what I have, when you think, okay, this is going to make me happy if I buy that. Well, in actuality, it's not the purchase of it. It's what it's going to do for me. So if you do the do for me first, you're happy.
Right. You're already halfway there and you focus on the things that are really important to you. And it becomes kind of a virtuous circle because now you spend the money on the things that are more important to you and you do more of them because, hey, you already, I invested in climbing shoes. I'm much more of a climber now. So of course I keep climbing.
Right. You're a bona fide climber. Okay.
I now have a real climber injury.
Oh dear.
I feel like a real climber now.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, so I feel like my head is swimming with information now. We talked about automating some stuff when we're small so that we can prolong hiring until we need to. We talked about how to know when it's time to hire, and that can be doing the math, consulting with somebody that can help you if math isn't your thing.
It's also very important to start with your skill set. You don't hire just based on math. You hire based on what you're good at and what you're not good at, what you want to outsource.
So
you just need to do in tandem with
that really, really happened in my business. I had gone as far as I could. The first year I tried to be a designer. Oh my word, I am not a designer. I am a coder, teacher, strategist. I am everything but a designer. So I really couldn't go anywhere with the business unless I hired a designer. Like it was imperative. So it was that skill set thing. I couldn't do it.
I see.
And so definitely skill set. Then we talked about hiring. So hiring on skill set and kind of doing the math. And then maybe taking the leap if you need to.
Yeah, like you did. And I can't tell you how much I admire you for that.
I don't think it should be admired. I don't know if it was nuts. And then we talked about some intention and manifestation, which is interesting.
We talked about setting goals. Like, how do you know how much money you want to make? And you were like, dude, just pick a number. I'm like, okay, let's talk about how you really determine how much money you want to make. And we never really got to talk about this. We kind of slid to talking about manifesting. So we might to talk about it again. You might want to edit it creatively.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So how do you pick how much money you actually want to make?
Yeah.
I see that there are 2 ways. One way is to imagine a tangible outcome. Like, what do you really want? Do you want to be somewhere on a yacht? Do you want to see 7 figures in your bank? And that will make you feel happier. Do you want to send your kids to college? Do you want to, renovate your kitchen? And then you imagine the outcome. that usually drives, a plan, because once you imagine the outcome really, really vividly, your brain usually starts thinking, oh, I want to renovate a kitchen, which means I need to hire contractors. Oh, I need to, what kind of renovation do I need? Do I need to completely overhaul it and put a new island in the middle? Or do I just want to paint my existing cabinets and call it a day? So when you imagine it really, really well, it drives the actions that you need to take, and they in turn drive how much money you need to make, right? So that's one way.
Okay, but let's say, I mean, that one is very true for me. I would like to renovate my kitchen. So let's say I need 15,000 to overhaul my kitchen. Just because I say I need 15,000 doesn't mean that my business is all of a sudden going to come up with 15,000 profit.
You know what? Definitely not all of a sudden. But then you say, okay, where can I make money? Clearly, I'm making money in my business. What do I need to do in my business to get to this 15,000 profit? And how fast can I get there?
So then you make your plan actually doable.
Exactly. Because you don't just pick a number that falls from the sky. You know what you need the money for. And you plan accordingly. You say, okay, I actually had a client in my business that really wanted to have a vacation and visit her father. And she also really wanted an electrical table she was a massage therapist. And she didn't know when she would be able to afford it. And then we set up a system and said, okay, this is how much money you currently make. This is how much money you need in order to afford this within the next 3 months. Because, the system shows how much money is going to accumulate in your bank account if you're going at a current rate. What do you need to do? She actually raised her prices because it was long overdue. But once she saw that this is what's really happening in her business, the way ahead was very clear. It's not always that clear. It was a relatively simple example. But that woman, after a month of consideration, the next morning, a little sign went up. Starting October, I think, 1st or something, my prices are going to be blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah.
That is so awesome.
And guess what happened? So this is one way of picking a goal. Another way, you just say, okay, you know what? I have my ambition and I want to be a millionaire and I want to make 7 figures. Because, by the way, it's very rare that we want to make money in order to make money. We usually want money because we want something, right?
Yeah.
So you could say, oh, I decided that I want to make 7 figures within the next 12 months. Why would you want to do that? Just to tap yourself on the shoulder that you're a millionaire now?
Right.
If that's not a bad goal, sure, go for it with my blessing. But at least ask yourself, like, money is means. What is it going to be for?
Yeah.
Because if you pick a number, you can still plan accordingly, because you say, okay, I want to make $1 million over the next 12 months. How much do I need to sell? Do I need to create a new product? Do I need, how many more clients do I need? Do I need to create something, whatever. But
I'm feeling so inspired.
Oh, thank you.
Well, because it's interesting. If you say you have this goal, let's say 1 million in 12 months, but you look at, okay, what am I already making every month? So if I divided up the difference, how much does each month have to increase? And then you look at, okay, yeah, does that mean a new product? Does that mean just one more client? It's so much more.
That would be nice if just one more client would bring you over to me.
A few more clients, more staff in that case.
I know that if I take on 20 more individual clients at my current level of service, it would never bring me to the $1 million mark. So clearly, if I want to make that, I need to create something scalable.
Different business model.
Right. So it's essentially
That's interesting. It really can shape your whole business.
Exactly. Of course it does.
Well, not of course, for those of us who don't do math.
You can come to me. I do math.
Okay, Marina, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much. I feel like you've really shed some light to me, and I'm sure to lots of other people who have the same sort of financial goals to make more.
Thanks.
I really, really appreciate it. So we can find you at Vision-Frameworks with an S.
Nope, just visionframework.com.
Vision Framework, right. Vision-framework.com, and you can help us out with our goal setting and the spreadsheets and figuring out what we need to do to get to our goals. Very exciting. And it's been so nice to talk to you.
Oh, thank you. It was awesome being here. Thank you for having me and putting up with my camera shyness.
Okay, perfect. That is great, Marina.
Thank you.
I can't wait to go through this and put it together.